Good evening. I'm Marchand MacDermotRoe for Infowars Nightly News. And tonight we have a very interesting story coming from The Guardian in the UK. Critics say Iran attack would be illegal under international law. Amid the saber rattling and bluster over Iran, a furious, if little noticed, debate is boiling over the legal basis for a U.S. or Israeli attack on Tehran's nuclear program. I find that phrasing there, little noticed, like this isn't a big, question. Is it illegal? Well, the first reaction should be, no kidding, would use more profanity there, but that's accurate enough. Yes, is it illegal? Obviously, but I think even bigger question that the American people have to ask themselves is, legal or not, militarily, an invasion of Iran would probably be the most poor military decision since Hitler's invasion of Russia, or for that matter, Napoleon's invasion of Russia, or the U.S. intervention in Vietnam, or our intervention in the Philippines during the Philippine insurrection, or let me see, I could go on and on. The bombing of Cambodia would be another one. Just Korean War. We have a record here, but this is one though that's not going to be so forgiving. If we look at the possible repercussions of an attack on Iran, now we're not talking a ground invasion, at least not yet, like the in 2003 invasion of Iraq. What we're looking at is an air campaign, the likes of Libya. But unlike Libya, Iran has the support of Russian early warning systems, which according to Debka, the Israeli intelligence newsletter, have been installed in Syria and most recently in Armenia. These early warning systems would give the Iranians plenty of warning that an American air attack, or an Israeli air attack for that matter, is coming. Not to mention the fact that the Iraqis, I could almost guarantee, would tell the Iranians that an air invasion was coming if it flew over their territory. So flying over Iraq, over Armenia, or Syria, the only avenues of approach would pretty much allow the Iranians to know an attack was coming. Not to mention that the Russian early warning systems have been installed in Iran as well. So what would this mean? Well, unlike the Iraqis who shot at our Air Force with flak cannons dating back to the 1930s, the Iranians are equipped with the latest and greatest state-of-the-art Russian S-300 surface-to-air missile systems. What does this mean? This means that they have the capability of bringing down the vast majority of our aircraft. Not to mention, as we can see from the fact that they brought down our latest and greatest CIA stealth drone, they not only have the ability to detect our stealth aircraft, but they have the ability to intercept and control our GPS signals. Again, why is this important? So they confuse our pilots and tell them they're flying over San Diego. Why is this a big deal? It's a big deal because all of our bombs, all of our munitions are guided by GPS. So plug in the wrong GPS coordinates and the bomb either lands harmlessly in a field or on top of your own troops. And so clearly the Iranians are in a much better position than we give them credit for. Also, again, either there is severe delusion going on in our administration, which again, might not be surprising. We are looking at a very unusual presidency, or we've had a very unusual series of presidencies. But the fact that Iran also has recently developed what is called the Qatar missile. The Qatar missile it is an anti-ship land-based missile that it was developed in conjunction with the Chinese aeronautics industry. Again, we assume the Chinese are our friends and they give guns to our enemies and technology for our enemies to sink our ships. But they're still our friends. They need us, right? An argument I've very commonly heard. But the Qatar missile is capable of sinking aircraft carriers. Its nickname in China is the aircraft carrier killer missile. It flies very low to the water, so it's very hard to detect, but just high enough above the water that it doesn't make a wake or, appear on sonar. In essence, it is virtually invisible until it strikes the ship. When it strikes a ship, it will completely sink the aircraft carrier. Now, our aircraft carriers that are sitting in the Persian Gulf are quite vulnerable. There is very little room to maneuver, and therefore they would not have advanced warning of an attack before it happened. Additionally, so now that's technology-wise what the Iranians have. What do they have in terms of manpower? Well, we field right now, in addition to the cuts in the armed forces, the United States Army alone is cutting over 100,000 troops from our ranks, right? But, so that brings the entire active duty force plus reserve and National Guard down to less than 1 million men. Less than 1 million. The Iranians, with the Quds force, which is their special forces, the Basij militia, their their equivalent of the National Guard and their regular armed forces equal roughly in the ballpark of 7 million men. But men isn't nearly just a deciding factor. As we could see from other famous military experiences throughout history, just having men is not enough for victory. However, the Iranians also have the latest in state-of-the-art Russian T-90 tanks, something that are capable now of fighting many of the state-of-the-art American tanks. And indeed, they've gotten help from the Chinese in developing most of their own home-based armaments. So now where does this go? Well, the Russians, and now again, a very little known fact that is not heard in the Western media, or in very many other medias for that matter, the Russians signed a mutual defense treaty with the Iranians. And this means that if Iran is attacked, Russia is obligated by treaty to come to Iran's defense, like Article 5 of the NATO treaty, where after 9/11, the United States said, well, all these NATO countries, we've been attacked, it's an attack on all of us, you got to come in and join us. Similarly, the Russians have a treaty with the Iranians that says if you're attacked, we're going to jump to your defense. But it doesn't stop there. The Chinese share a mutual defense treaty with the Russians. North Koreans share a mutual defense treaty with the Chinese. The Venezuelans share a mutual defense treaty with the Russians, and the Bolivians share a mutual defense treaty with the Venezuelans, and of course the Cubans have a mutual defense treaty with the Russians. You can see how this is all playing out. In essence, an attack on Iran, or by extension, an attack on Syria, because Iran has promised to come to Syria's defense. So any attack on either Syria or Iran runs the potential of provoking the next world war. But folks, it gets better. Oh, good Lord, it gets better. This not only runs the potential of plunging us into World War III, a war unlike which we have never seen before. We haven't been invaded since 1812. As much as we like to gripe, the Japanese occupation of the Aleutian Islands was an invasion. The Chinese and the Russians both have the capabilities of hitting us at home. They have the capabilities of deploying in the ballpark of 200 million men. It's a lot of people. You know, it's to an invasion, let alone the capabilities of having submarines come up our coast and hit us at home. So, folks, an attack on Iran is not just illegal. It goes beyond being illegal and immoral. It could mean the ultimate destruction of the United States. I mean, this potentially could mean bombs are falling on American major cities. Likewise, an attack on Syria could have the same effect. I'm Marchand MacDermotRoe for Infowars Nightly News. Have a great night.